Looking back now, I think I was probably frightened of all the emotions to come, and I was right to be. But I knew I had to face them eventually, because an undead, colorless half-life lies ahead if we cannot find the courage to give ourselves the cacophonous gift of grief. She continues, so I am grateful for my grief and all the pain and anger that comes with it, because I know that for me, this way lies the better life. It may not be easier, but it is real and true, and it is mine.
Vicky's favorite hymn was Here I Am, Lord. When we talked about putting together this service, I said that, and I said I'd really like to sing this song at the service. I don't know if I can. Don't know if I can get through it. But Reverend Chris had words of encouragement that I think that are going to help me through. And my son is joining me, and I'd like to invite you all, those of you who might know this hymn, to join in, especially on the chorus.
Whom shall I send? thank you all for coming for Vicky's celebration of life. She would be thrilled to see all of you. She loved an audience. I am Ann Seymour, and Vicky was my best friend. I always called her my bestie, but I know she had lots of besties. She had more friends than Van Camps has pork and beans. And I'm here today to share with you some of the memories of what her friendship meant to me. Vicky and I met at work years ago, and we worked together for 26 years. And I liked her from the start. I remember one day I needed to ask her something about one of her patients. And our unit at that time was round, and you could see just about everything. And I said, "Vicky," and she said, "Yes." And I couldn't find her. And I was like, "Vicky," and she said, "Yes." I still couldn't find her. I was like, "Oh my God, where did she go?" And I said, "Vicky," and she said, "Yes." And I said, "Are you standing up? Because I cannot see you." And the bed was taller than Vicky, and she was behind the bed, and everybody started laughing, including Vicky. She was so cute. Another time, Vicky and I went to eat lunch together, and we were talking about things, and somehow we got to talking about breakfast. And she said that she loved to eat Frosted Flakes for breakfast. And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh." And she said, "But it has to come out even." And I said, I don't know what that means." And she said, "Well, your milk it all has to come out even. Like if you have too much milk, you've got to add some more cereal. And if you have too much cereal, you have to add more milk." And I was like, "Vicky, you could eat a whole box of cereal and a gallon of milk in one sitting." And she said, "I know." I knew right then we were going to be friends. Vicky was full of life and always on the go. She never let her diseases get her down. We all called her our Energizer Bunny. I admired her for that. Vicky was friendly to everyone, cared about everyone, and that she was a perfect nurse. That was a good job for her because she loved everybody. She loved meeting new people, and of course, she would have a new friend. Vicky loved her family. Keith and her had such a good marriage. Everyone always knew him as Hun Bunch, as she affectionately called him. And she loved her son Lee and grandson Arrow, and she was so excited to be a grandmother. She loved her brother Larry, sister-in-law Susie, all of her nieces and nephews. She always said that Larry was the smart one in the family. She loved all of her cats. She had such a big heart that we friends felt like we were family too. I miss Vicky every day. I miss our talks. I'm grateful that she no longer suffers, and she is with her Lord and Savior and at peace. Her absence is deeply felt. She would want for everybody to remember her as she was, full of joy, love, and energy. She cherished her family, her friends, all animals, and life itself. I will always treasure the time I had with her, and I'm so grateful to have been her friend. Thank you.
A blessing from the poet John Donahue, O. Donahue. It is called For a Nurse. Your mind knows the world of illness, the fright that invades a person arriving in and out of the world, distraught and grieved by illness. How it can strip a life of its joy, dim the light of the heart, put shock in the eyes. You see worlds breaking at the onset of illness. Families at bedsides distraught that their mother's name has come up in the secret lottery of misfortune that had always chosen someone else. You watch their helpless love that would exchange places with her. The veil of skin opened, the search through the body's night to remove tissue war-torn with cancer. Young lives that should be out in the sun enjoying life with wild hearts come in here lamed by accident, and the lucky ones who leave, already old and in captive posture. The elderly who should be prepared but are frightened and unsure. You understand no one can learn beforehand an elegant or easy way to die. In this fragile frontier place, your kindness becomes a light that consoles the brokenhearted, awakens within desperate storms, that oasis of serenity that calls the spirit to rise from beneath the weight of pain, to create a new space in the person's mind, where they gain distance from their suffering and begin to see the invitation to integrate and transform it. May you embrace the beauty in what you do and how you stand like a secret angel between the bleak despair of illness and the unquenchable light of spirit that can turn the darkest destiny toward dawn. May you never doubt the gifts you bring. Rather, learn from these frontiers wisdom for your own heart. May you come to inherit the blessings of your kindness and never be without care and love when winter enters your own life. One of the most loving ways to remember someone is to tell stories and share memories. I would like to invite those who would like to come forward and share a memory of Vicky that you hold. Perhaps it's a short story of an experience you shared with her, or perhaps it's something she said or did that was significant to you. We will use the microphone right here, and if it's difficult for you to come up to the microphone, I invite you to raise your hand, and I will bring it to you.
Hi, I'm Larry Dooley, Vicky's brother. Thank you for being here today. I think of Vicky as my little sister and know her in that context. So it's nice to get your perspective and talk to y'all and get a glimpse of how she impacted your lives as a loving and caring adult. I remember when Vicky was born, I was 4 years old, and Mother and Daddy brought her home from the hospital, placed her in this bassinet, and then left me standing alone in the room. I wanted to see what was making all that noise, so I pulled up on the side of the bassinet and promptly turned it over, rolled her out on the floor, and of course she was crying. Mother and Daddy came running in and said, "What did you do?" Vicky was fine, but she always says that stunted her growth and caused her to be short. Vicky kept that bassinet, and it's now in her house stuffed with her stuffed pigs. Like most big brothers, I thought she was an annoying little sister, and she always claimed that I truly did annoy her quite a bit. But I have never a recollection of doing that. It was most likely the opposite. Susie, my wife, says that Vicky told her a lot about me, and that Susie, would not know anything about my growing up years without Vicky's stories, which I probably think were mostly not true. I remember in school she had lots of friends, and as you probably know, she was quite a talker. I did not like to ride in the car with her if she was driving, particularly, because she would always be talking and looking at you without looking at the road. The first time my wife met Vicky was on a bus ride from Charlottesville to Danville, Virginia. Susie said that Vicky talked the entire 3+ hours trip and claimed that Vicky said that my wife, would have to iron my underwear if we got married. This has never happened in 57 years, and I don't think it's going to happen. Vicky was in our wedding, and she was the shortest bridesmaid. She was a loving and generous aunt to our children and our grandchildren, and always remember them with some of the nicest presents and some of the best birthday and holiday cards. She had a knack for finding the perfect card to send them, which always brought them a smile and a laugh. After retiring, she made many new friends at I forgot to mention when she was working. It was a joyful day when she married Keith. His love for her knew no limits, and they complemented each other in every way. My parents were so grateful for this, and we all were, Keith. Mother and Daddy adored Vicky so much that they would drop everything they were doing and drive 4 hours to come take care of her cats if she asked them to, so that she and Keith could travel, which just reinforced my opinion that she was the favorite child. She did love cats, and she had a kind heart for most animals. She delighted in taking care of neighbors' pets, even to the point that she would buy the pets special treats while the people were on vacation. Any stray cat, raccoon, possum, squirrel, bird, or chipmunk knew that they would get a free handout at Vicky's. I remember at one time she had a pet turtle, one of those little turtles that you bought for 25 cents at the store. That turtle lived for many years, much longer than it should have, because she took very good care of it, even to the point of bathing it and washing its shell with a toothbrush when she changed the water. She loved being a nurse. She really did care for her patients, and she saw them each as individuals, real people. She made many long-term friends with the doctors and nurses. She told me of the many times that she and the others would bring in goodies for parties at work. After retired, she enjoyed making new friends at the Y during the exercise and the swimming classes she took. And there too, there were a lot of parties and meals out and some shopping trips with those friends. As you saw in the pictures, she had a smile, and she had a smile for each and every one. She liked to talk, even to people she had just met. She enjoyed life and had a gracious and genuine manner with everyone. As she grew older, she had many health issues. Her body failed her in many ways, and Keith demonstrated true love as he helped and cared for her through many doctor's visits, medical procedures, hospitalizations, EMS trips, and rehab events. But through it all, and even to the end, she had a smile and a happy outlook on life. Recently, when I was sitting with Vicky, I reflected on a collection of columns by Thomas Hunter Thompson in a book. It was written back in the 60s. And one quote I remembered: "Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather should be a skid-in broadside in a cloud of dust with a body thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and happily proclaiming, 'Wow, what a ride.'" That was my sister. She enjoyed life to the fullest. She loved her husband, her family, and her friends. It's hard to lose a sibling, the person that knows the most about you and knew you the longest. We miss her dearly.
Hi, I'm Joan Baker. 38 years ago, my husband Dave and I had this amazing stroke of luck. We moved into the apartment next to Keith and Vicky. And we've been friends ever since, and we've been grateful for that stroke of luck ever since. I can picture this scene in my mind. I was outside the apartment with our two young sons. They were playing. We'd just arrived from England. Vicky came over to introduce herself. She said, "Hi, I'm Vicky. I'm just going to collect some pizza. Can I get you anything?" I want anybody to raise their hand who's had food from Vicky. Yes, look. And over the years, we got to know each other really well. In recent years, we moved to Oregon, so I hadn't seen her as much, but we did manage to come and see her several times while she was still well. And several people mentioned animals. This little secret I know about Vicky: she loved animals, but we used to go to a lot of movies. She would not watch a movie if it had an animal in it. She could watch zombie movies and old horror films, but if the movie had an animal in it, she was so afraid something was going to happen to the animal. She just couldn't stand it. She couldn't stand it. I could entertain you all day, but She loved the beach. She loved to go to Myrtle Beach, in the heat, of course. When we were here for a short while, and then we moved back to England and then came back. While we were in England, she and Keith and Vicky's mum and dad came to visit. And we took them down to a town called Brighton on the south coast of England to show her the beach. She couldn't believe it. There was no sand. That beach is all little pebbles. And to this day, I can just remember her saying, "There's no sand." So every time, ever since, Dave and I, whenever we travel and see a beach, we always send Vicky a photo. So Keith, I'm sorry, you're going to get lots of beach photos. The other thing, Vicky taught us how to understand Southern. I won't say she taught us how to speak it. I can say, "Yes, ma'am." Vicky taught me that. And also, one of our favorite sayings now is, "Used to could." Which, yeah, there's lots of things now that applies to. But people where we live now in Oregon, they don't understand this Southern thing. I have to explain that. Used to could, but now I can't. There was one other thing I was going to say, but I can't remember. But, sorry? Oh, you want me to tell the chicken story? Is anybody going to tell the chicken story? Oh, okay. Well, she loved animals. You know the chicken trucks? We call them the chicken trucks that go up and trundle up and down Pleasantburg and Wadehampton going to the processing plant. Well, one night on her way home from work, she found a chicken that had escaped that chicken truck, and it was on the side of the road on the Church Street Bridge in downtown Greenville. Yeah, she picked that chicken up. I don't know how she got it home. Did she wrap it in something? She wrapped it in a towel, took it home, and she kept it there somehow, and called a friend the next day who had a little farm down in Fountain Inn or somewhere who had chickens and goats, and that chicken lived its life happily down there in Fountain Inn. Yeah. And what was its name? Her name was Edna. Oh, Edna. I didn't know that. Thank you. But I just have so many happy memories of Vicky, and she's always going to be in our hearts. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Quinn. I worked in the ICU with Vicky. Keith and I bonded over our running escapades. Clearly that was not Vicky. Vicky was more team 0.0. But we both were swimmers, so we kind of bonded over that. Just a story that I admired the obvious love that Keith and Vicky had together. One of my favorite stories was their Valentine's Day, which y'all probably know. Valentine's Day, I didn't realize that they do this, but Waffle House apparently does it really big for Valentine's Day, and that's where they would go every year for Valentine's Day. And I just thought that was the coolest, sweetest thing, and yeah, never experienced that for myself. Yeah, I was all prepared to tell the Edna story, but yeah. Yeah, so Edna was given to KP, and she lived down in Graycourt. She had a broken breastbone from falling off the truck, so she walked kind of funny. But she lived out her days and laid like one egg a day out there in Graycourt. So she lived a very good life from her fortunate fall off the chicken truck. Vicky, we worked opposite weekends, so I didn't work with her as much, but from having worked with her, Vicky was one of the first people who would offer her hand to help you, always with a smile. And when Vicky, vertically challenged, she would be the first one to show up your bed with these big patients that we had to turn. Hey, I'm gonna be there, and she'll be like, "Oh, can you get the feet? Can you?" But she would just jump right in there, and tubes and IVs and things may not have survived, but we would all just she just laugh. Oh well, oh my, looky there, just bless her heart, you know. But she had such a loving and giving heart and was so willing to help anybody, anytime. And, you know, we all have those memories of her, and you did a great job. So, yeah, that's it for me, for Vicky.
Wife, mom, Grandma Vicky, little sister, sister-in-law, aunt, nurse, friend, and my favorite honey bunch. I met Vicky at the Y, at the aqua swim classes, aqua smile classes in the pool, and we have not been friends for a long time, but I had to know this girl. I had to meet this girl, and we did become good friends. And it would be an adventure when Vicky would show up for class, because she'd make her way into the building first of all, and she had to greet everyone, and it would be, let me see if I can get it right. Hey, how are you? That's the way she was, and she had to talk there for a while, and then would ever make her way down the hall and see the cleaning lady and have a conversation with her, and make her way around to the locker room, and finally she'd enter the pool area. Class would be going on, and she'd come moseying on in, and she would stick her toe in the water, and it would be cold. It would always be cold for her, and like, oh, it's too cold in here. And she'd finally make her way in the pool, and our fearless leader, Cheryl, would be like, you know, Vicky, get in the pool, will you? And so she'd be in the back corner there with her group of friends, and the talking would start during class. Imagine that. And then, of course, we have another friend that she has more metal in her than the Titanic. So her movement wasn't well, and Vicky was behind her. And there she was talking with Vicky. So Cheryl had enough of this, and she'd call her out. I'm not going to call the person's name, but she would call her out to turn around and get busy in class. So that would go on. We'd all laugh, and I'd go, dang, I need to know who this girl is. She's a troublemaker like me. So this would go on, and it would all be fun, and we'd have our potluck dinners and have bingo, and Vicky would always be there. Party girl she was. That's who she was, party girl. Wasn't going to miss any of those parties. So we had a good time, and she became a good friend in a short period of time. She was my sweet friend. That's what she called me, sweet friend. And I'll miss her very much, and I enjoyed her company all the time. And to end this is, to be absent from the body is to be with the Lord. That's 2 Corinthians 5:8. On that day, when I go to see the Lord, I know Vicky will be there, and she'll say, hey, how are you?
Hi everybody, most of you don't know me, but I have been Vicky's neighbor for the past 10 years. And before me, my grandmother lived in the house for about 20 years before that. So I have grown up knowing Keith and Vicky for pretty much my whole life. As I would come to see my grandmother, I would see them next door. And it's been just a wonderful time talking over the fence with Vicky. And recently, a couple years ago, again on the animal train, we got 2 miniature dachshunds. And not long, while they were puppies, we would start hearing this different type of bark from them in the backyard. You know, like there's the squirrel bark, there's the intruder bark, but there was like this short, high-pitched bark as if they were trying to get someone's attention. Went outside in the backyard and found Vicky feeding them treats through the fence. And then caught her red-handed, and she goes, I hope you don't mind, I bought a whole bag at the animal, feed store. She goes, can I give them treats? I was like, well, you might as well. So we always knew when Vicky was at the fence next door because of how my dogs would bark. And I will tell you, they have missed Vicky for quite a while now, ever since her health started declining, because they will go still sit at the fence perfectly still, and they will look over waiting for Vicky to show up. But she was much loved by my husband and I, by my little 3-year-old who loves her and is still trying to wrap her brain around Miss Vicky being gone because she's too little to understand. But my dogs miss Vicky too.
Hi, I'm Candy Kern. I attend here at the Greenville UU Fellowship. And ever the nurse, I have about as much metal in my body as that woman in the water aerobics class. And I had to have a hip replacement in October of last year. And I was a little concerned about it, and I hadn't seen Vicky for a while, and ran into her and Keith at the fellowship hall after service. And she asked me how I was doing, because I was in a scooter at that point, because I couldn't walk, and asked me what was going on, and I told her. And ever the nurse, she told me everything to expect that was going to happen with my hip replacement, and she put me totally at ease for something that was really, really scary. And I have been thankful for her friendship over the many decades we've been here at the fellowship, and when she would attend with Keith. But I was most thankful for her that day and going into that surgery.
Hi, I'm Tracy Hall, and I got to know Vicky because I got to be her physical therapist for many years, and Keith and I became friends. We worked together, and we ran many marathons together. And I just fell in love with Vicky when at a marathon she pulls up in the van, like at mile 20, and says, I got some peanuts and a Coke for you, Keith. And, we're all trying to be healthy and finish this marathon, and she was just the opposite end of that, but it just made me fall in love with her. And so she came to therapy, and when I found out she was a nurse, I was like, okay. You nurses are hard to treat. But she was amazing. She would always do everything I told her to do, and one day she told me, she says, well, I spend 2 hours at the Y doing my exercises. But now I realize there was a lot of talking going on in that 2 hours. And so she recently, I don't know if it was how long ago it was, but she came to me again for therapy, and there was a lot of talking. And every person in there, she was supposed to be doing her exercises, and she's talking to the patient. I'm having to come back over. Miss Vicky, what are you doing? But I just had to get up because I just loved her so much, and I just knew her in that capacity. But I heard about all you guys because she told me everything that was going on in her life. Thank you.
I'm June Duran. I've known Vicky almost my whole life. We went to elementary school together. Then I moved to the county where she lived in the city. And then my husband and her went to high school together, so we fell back in a friendship again. And then I got married, we departed ways again, and then here I go to practical nursing school, and who is the student in there but Vicky? So we went to nursing school together as well. And then after nursing school, we bought our first house, and who do we move next door to but Vicky's mom and dad? So we were destined to be friends, I guess. And Vicky loved her family. She told me about all the Susie and Larry's children, and so did Mr. and Ms. Dooley. They all loved the family. And it was just, Vicky was so honored to have a son and a grandson. And it's just hard to see her go. We will always love her and always remember that nice smile she had for all of us. And she was a great nurse, as we all know. Thank you.
Can I bring the microphone to anyone? Someone covered up my notes, but that's okay. The tears and smiles today are a special gift as we have dipped into the well of love and memory. May these memories, shared as well as those unspoken, nourish you and hold you this day and always. May it be so. Please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn. You may be seated. A reading of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We have gathered in the presence of a deep and abiding mystery. With humble hearts, we honor the veil that has fallen between us and the one we love. In the words of Robert Terry Weston, "Let none fear, for greater than sorrow is love, which endures through pain and conquers even grief. Love binds all hearts in bonds of fellowship and courage. They who love unselfishly face even the depths with courage, for their strength is the strength of many, and their courage rests upon the love of friends." As we remember Vicky, may the peace which passes understanding, the peace that comes with acceptance and thanksgiving, the peace of the Spirit which rises above all the strains of the earth, be and abide with us all, both this day and forevermore. Dear ones, go in peace.